They came to erase a station. What they awakened was a fleet buried in ice, born from old sins and bound by silence. Humanity unleashed its ghosts, not for conquest, but for memory, for justice, for every child who never learned what war meant. When the Wrath Empire demanded honor, we answered with precision strikes and burned their name into history's ash. But even after the last tyrant fell, the real fight began, teaching peace without hiding the blade that earned it. Because monsters do exist, and some wear kindness like a mask. Stay with us to find out how the story ends, and don't forget to subscribe. For 30 years, humanity drifted through the wider cosmos as a courteous afterthought. Their colony flotillas harvested comet ice, printed habitats in L-point eddies, and swapped folk songs with every species willing to slow down for tea. Classroom walls across Earth and Luna bore the slogan that guided 2 generations of explorers. Bold, but gentle. The mantra worked. By the time the Farseeker relay reached the Cygnus Spur, Earth had signed 38 micro-treaties on trade, disaster relief, and interlinguist standards. When children asked what war was, teachers pulled dusty hollow footage from pre-departure archives and spoke in careful past tense. Humanity wanted the galaxy to know one thing. The monsters of its history had grown claws no longer. Then the hegemony of Wrath came plummeting out of the dark. Wrath warships were basalt wedges, each the length of a city, engines burning element zero torchfire bright enough to blind sensors. They entered Sol territory without warning, carving a vector straight for Iapetus Station, an outpost famous only for AG greenhouses and boarding school dormitories where miners' children learned calculus between Saturn's rings. The station's automated hail transmitted a garden-variety welcome, followed by emergency protocols, followed by unanswered silence. 2 minutes later, every feed from Iapetus collapsed into white noise. The first Terran patrol craft to arrive, ESS Amity, found debris orbiting like black snow. Dock pylons shredded. Habitat torus split along its seam. And where 6,000 people once studied soil pH, there remained only flecks of carbon and drifting keepsakes, a plush red dragon, fragments of a clarinet, a single tennis shoe gliding heel over toe through irradiated twilight. Admiral Yaram Beale, orbiting aboard the command carrier Wallace, ordered open band inquiry. The Wrath answered at last. A single transmission beamed on every frequency. Sol wanted to barter grain. We required silence. Your noise offended the spiral. Correction applied. The message ended with vector coordinates of the next correction. Those coordinates pointed directly at Mars. In Union Hall, New Geneva, representatives of 13 human polities argued 12 hours straight. Half demanded renewed diplomacy. Half demanded immediate retaliation. But both halves confronted the same bitter arithmetic. Earth's defense charter allowed for only regional skirmish doctrine. No one had built tonnage comparable to a Wrath cruiser since the Sol Pact's disarmament compacts. The charter might as well have been parchment shields against tungsten rain. At 5:47 Zulu, the delegates voted to transmit one more plea. We mourn. We apologize. We will adjust beacon traffic. Please stand down. The Wrath never acknowledged the signal. Instead, they decelerated into Mars space and fired thorium lances through 2 orbital mirrors and the civilian shuttle Red Sparrow. 57 colonists died before emergency repulsors shoved the remaining mirrors into sacrificial trajectories. The vote in Union Hall reconvened for 41 minutes. No speeches made. No eyes met. The result was unanimous. Activate contingency Epsilon. The file had languished since the last century, accessible only by quorum override and a 16-kilowatt physical cipher sealed beneath Antarctic ice. When decrypted, it contained 1 paragraph, 3 command keys, and the coordinates of a fleet that officially did not exist. Ghost Wing 7 woke in the Oort. 39 ships, names erased, IFF dark, hulls matte black, had slept inside a comet cavity whose ice disguised heat bloom. Each keel bore the stamp of pre-charter militaries that had sworn never to fly again. Now their reactor hearts rekindled, lighting frost crystals with sapphire glow. The wing commander, callsign Grim Muse, received a terse packet. Wrath engaged civilian targets. Diplomacy extinguished. Epsilon in effect. Mask off. Muse relayed a single-syllable copy, then plotted intercept coordinates nobody had used since the war theory moratoriums, subnet heretic gateways strung between brown dwarf dead ends. Leaps that shaved days off lawful lanes by riding gravity spikes powerful enough to snap commercial drives. Laws against such transit hadn't been repealed. They'd been forgotten. The ghosts, built of old sins and hush money, simply remembered. While the fleet burned dark, Earth's public feeds played soft. The Directorate released no war statement, only extended news blackout citing traffic safety. Families patched fresh insulation around window seams, rally sirens tested across arcologies, but no child yet heard the word war in morning electives. The Directorate believed in one last kindness: let children dream an extra night before the next sunrise devoured it. In the glow of Europa's ice canyons, Wrath Task Group Vec assembled fuel skimmers for the final Sol System cleansing run. They expected no resistance. Their doctrine stated, inflict overmatch early, harvest compliance. It had worked on 50 worlds. Yet as Vec's sensor webs painted lunar valleys, shadows crosshatched their displays, 39 small returns, too cold, closing far too fast. Wrath Commodore Sessex dismissed them as ice debris until the first hull-piercing slug tore his primary exchanger apart at 0.4 C. Pressure curtains failed. Atmosphere puffed into raw vacuum. The bridge cracked open like a blasted seed pod. The ghosts did not volley. They performed surgery. Rail slugs lanced reactor throats, vaporizing hot cores into a newt slag. Boarding torpedoes breached aft spines, disgorging troopers in inertial-damped frames who moved with glacial certainty, placing shaped plasma charges at every life support trunk. By the time Wrath escorts spooled cannons, the human flotilla had scattered again, each ship vectoring off killbox lines. Silent, patient. No demands, no coded threats. Only work. 16 minutes after first contact, the largest Wrath cruiser Zerketh collapsed inwards, broken on 50 internal detonations. Fractured plating spiraled away, carving gashes through felloes in tight formation. Chain reaction carnage followed. On Vexcom bands, desperate voices overlapped. Unknown pattern. Override does nothing. They are inside Conduit 4, damage control lost. How? They talk peace. Why do they fight like? Stream ends there. Wrath Gunnery still vaporized 2 ghost corvettes. 21 human commandos perished patching vent couplings that would never exist again. Muse recorded every casualty by hand. The ghosts did not expect to live. They expected to win. When they did. 3 hours later, nothing powered remained of Task Group Vec. Only cold carcasses adrift over Europa's dawn. Muse's after-action packet contained coordinates for the next target deeper in Wrath territory. She ordered kinetic capture of salvageable charger coils, stitched them to frigate hulls with field forges, and flung the flotilla beyond Sol before Directorate could draft a single press release. Monsters Awoken have no interest in celebrity. Galactic media tasted blood too late. Distant observers intercepted encrypted traffic, decrypted enough shock data to slap headlines. Human Shadow Fleet obliterates Wrath Vanguard. Comment threads collapsed into shrieking camps, sympathizers, doomsayers, entrepreneurs. On the neutral world Velcon, a broadcast anchor blinked 4 eyelids and tried levity. The quaint Terrans will huff, then resume their teacups. During the next break, producers received footage of Zerketh disintegrating. Levity died in rehearsal. The Galactic Coordination Council petitioned Earth for clarification. Earth responded with a 3-word statement: civilians. Avenged. Continue. If that brevity worried the Council, they disguised it under procedural bustle. Meanwhile, those species once bruised by Wrath boots reviewed centuries of pleas ignored by oversight courts. On back-channel forums, they typed cautious, reverent comments. Giants have woken. Watch the treads. Wrath High Command demanded honor duel. They believed humans bound by codes older than interstellar flight. Challenge answered saber to saber. They broadcast coordinates of a ceremonial arena moon, offered single combat between champions. Fleet pictures accompanied the invite, just in case humanity misread stakes. Earth's Directorate never routed the message, Muse's ghosts did. 72 hours later, they arrived at the arena, but not for duel. They mined approach corridors with null-wave charges researched from cold files labeled, for extinction-level deter only. Charges rewrote EM topology long enough to strip every Wrath targeting array to blank static. By the time flagship Krexlar realized she could neither lock weapons nor raise shields, Muse's ships fell upon her like wolves upon stunned bull. Wrath observers called foul. Muse's only transmission bled across all channels. You mistook our courtesy for creed. Monsters make no vows. At 1402 local, the arena moon split its own mantle. Ghost demo teams had burrowed fissures through crust, seeded antimatter nodules along stress motherlodes. Tidal release did the rest. Spectators died in silent horror as magma vented into domed bleachers. Back home, Parliament floor in Sydney displayed orbital photos, a crimson veil yawning across a moon's pale eye. Prime Minister Langley whispered, God help them. They've become the beast we always feared. Opposition leader Novak, gray-haired war skeptic, answered. Beast responded when Empire clawed the nursery. Neither man slept at night. While councils debated semantics, Section Black of Directorate prepared Project Harrow, 7-step collapse playbook encoded decades prior in case of existential threat. Step 1, Snap, was Ghostwing operations already underway. Step 2, Siphon, targeted Wrath supply architecture, singular refinery moons feeding the war machine. Ghost reconnaissance flag Dulcev, a helium hydro processor inside a gas giant's permanent hurricane. Production throughput, 1/4 Wrath fleet fuel. Muse detached Vanguard boats equipped with gravity shear injectors. They burrowed into pressure layers, seeded vortex seeds that unstitched the refinery's anchor lattice, collapsing rigs into neon abyss. 24 million tons of volatile isotope vanished beneath clouds painted cherry by fusion flashback. Night side of the gas giant glowed for 10 Earth days. Wrath home channel sputtered fear. Fuel reserves plummeted below invasion threshold. High Command shouted for allies. Allies answered with static. No one volunteers to leash dragon after smelling burnt scale. Step 3. Silence. Cut Wrath long-range comm relays. Step 4. Strangle. Rerouted merchant convoys with threat pings promising non-liability visas for any captain abandoning Wrath contracts. Corporate guilds hemorrhaged, switching side when Terran credit markets boomed on promise of post-war reconstruction. By the time Step 5. Stormwall engaged, Wrath commanders saw nightmares and radar ghosts. Families of officers evacuated core worlds whispering old prayers about end times. Yet the Empire still boasted more tonnage, more guns, and fortified capital ring said to repel supernova winds. High Chancellor Varric declared final stand. Drive filth apes back to Mubal. On Earth, Directorate keyed Step 6. Scalpel. Rhea Talis took command of Ghost Insertion Team. Target: Varric. They would breach Salafarite vaults beneath the Pale Spire, paint the Chancellor's capture across every sky he once claimed. Not for ransom, humanity forswore negotiation now, but to carve on galactic conscience a single indelible glyph: never again presume the lamb lacks fangs. Around them, ordinary soul citizens knitted care packages for soldiers they would never meet, sang lullabies into encrypted morale channels piped into strike carrier bunks. Teachers still taught calculus, but children now memorized shelter drills between lectures on galactic ethics. They asked parents whether monsters looked like people. Parents answered they hoped never to find out. Somewhere in Arctic night, President Rin stood alone on a cliff-edge helipad, icy wind flaying hair across tear-streaked cheeks. She whispered the universal apology no recorder would archive. Forgive us for what we become in your name. Then she turned toward the Aurora, blood-green tonight, and prayed it swallowed fear before rage could devour everything else. Night on Wrath Prime shimmered with bioluminescent smog rising off the inland sea of Sekarth, and in that spectral glow 6 drop capsules rained from orbit, each only a handspan larger than a coffin. Their ablative skins burned white-hot for precisely 3 seconds, then sloughed away. What remained were matte black splinters that cut through troposphere as silent as falling ash. Every tracking radar on the capital continent continued to show comm skies. Muse's support frigates had spent 19 hours ghost mirroring Imperial sensor packets, injecting copies of yesterday's air traffic until the whole network believed its own dream. Rhea Talis rode Capsule 3, knees folded under chin, rifle magnet clamped to chest, pupils coltish-wide on combat stimulants that slowed her pulse without dulling intent. Around her the heads-up visor traced target vectors in faint blue. Behind her ribs, memory whispered. 2 decades ago she'd sung choir in a Martian biodome. High notes lifting through recycled air, father applauding, mother crying for joy. Choir dissolved the day news of Iapetus arrived. She had not sung since. Capsule struck a stretch of desert north of the Capitol Tower exactly where orbital gravimetry predicted subsurface basalt thick enough to mask seismic signatures. Airbags bloomed, skidding troopers across sand dunes the color of oxidized blood. Suits auto-breached, releasing 6 shadows that sprinted for the drainage conduit feeding into the palace aquifer. The operation clock read 92 minutes until Pale Spire Security AI finished nightly kernel audit and re-up deepscan LiDAR, 92 minutes to goes through half a kilometer of ducts, bypass 3 biometric choke points, and stand sword dip close to the warlord who had renamed 3 constellations after past massacres. Their route had been baked into neural implants by qubit drip. Memorize once, then watch the map self-delete from synaptic tags 5 seconds later. In the tunnel's black loam, Rhea followed muscle memory rather than recalled images, palms reading wall corrugations like Braille for the blind fury. Her team slid sonic knives through grating seams, disarmed thermal nets with catalytic freeze jelly, and whispered progress ticks in a language of TAPS 2 narrowband for wrath tympanic sensors. Above them, the capital city Ithrak lay stifled beneath curfew. Streets once thronged with merchants hawking crystalline bread charms were empty save patrol walkers clanking between copper lamps. Billboards that used to announce gladiator bouts now scrolled casualty tallies, thousands, tens of thousands, numbers that fractured imperial pride. In slums by the Mek River, a child of 7 listened to distant gunship hum and asked an older sister if monsters truly ate entire planets. The sister answered no, planets were too large. She had no idea. Rhea's squad breached the final access hatch into the warlord's private data suture, an oval chamber wrapped in hollow silk swirling with encrypted star charts. Opposite side, 2 Wrath honor guards lounged beside a genetically chained razorhound. The creature lifted its ridged skull a heartbeat too late, tranquilizer flechettes hissed, burying into scaled throats, and 3 bodies slumped before breath. Squad second, Callow, jacked a code spike into the main quantum verge. His visor scrolled glyph floods, door schematics, guard rotations, biometric handshake seats. He flashed green and white spike firmware, plastic burn odorless and recycled airflow. 47 minutes left. They ascended maintenance lifts shaft by shaft, each level closer to throne sanctum. With every upward meter heartbeat hardened. No time for philosophical dread. Varric's death or capture was strategic, not vengeance, nothing so inefficient. Yet Ghost Doctrine allowed personal edges to hone steel. Rhea carried father's medical pendant in her glove. Inside, a grain of Iapetus alloy fused to glass. 3rd shaft opened beneath the spire's antechamber, white plasteel floor incised with spirals, braziers exhaling sweet narcotic steam, wrath ritual for lucid decision-making. The only guard present knelt in prayer trance, senses fogged. Rhea swung, butt of rifle, bone cracked. Guard sagged into scented ash. 32 minutes. Steel double doors loomed, inscribed with ideograms for dominion and silence. Charge clusters slid onto hinges, magnetic fields folded metal inward like petals. Inside, the throne vault gaped vast and dim. Hollow skylight simulated dawn horizon. In its glow stood Warlord Varric. He wore battle regalia scaled in obsidian crescents, powered exoservos humming at hip joints. Eyes triple-pupiled picked the intruder's mid-entry. No tremor of fear, only patient disdain. So, he said in trade speak taught to diplomats, the specters cross thresholds. Show me the cost of my mistake. Rhea advanced, rifle steady, but safety on. Your mistake, Warlord, wasn't Eden Reach or Mars or the children who never learned your name. Your mistake was assuming kindness is our nature instead of our choice. Varric laughed, but Warble cracked. And here you choose slaughter. Spirals always tighten. He lunged. Armblade of searing plasma carved the air where Rhea's head had been. She pivoted, fired a triple burst, EMP rounds that bloomed in blue fractal nets across his corselet, frying servo relays. Momentum carried his 2-ton frame onto marble, gouging trenches. Callow and Miradov passed, securing exit route. Other ghosts set signal beacons along arch ribs. Rhea circled the downed tyrant. Surrender. Face tribunal. Yet she knew courts rarely convened for monsters. Ghosts seldom took prisoners. Varric snarled, brokered a last bargain. Annihilate me and spawn 10 kings worse. Take me, and your ghosts die leaving. But join me, teach your terror. We could shred the stars side by side. Rhea thought of father's applause echoing inside nursery metal. She shot him in the knee joints, severing the exoframe. The warlord roared, collapsed, still alive. You'll beg before the end, she said quietly, as she'd promised years ago. Extraction alarms flared across palace mesh. Ghosts clamped gravrig braces to the disabled warlord, cinching him into mag-sled suspension. Doors behind ruptured inwards, Wrath Elite phalanx flooding with shriek guns. Rhea's squad popped echo grenades that split sound into confusion. Auto turrets targeted phantom heat prints while humans ghosted between statues. Upward through servant vents, into aerial service dock, they burst onto a landing gantry just as Ghost Wing's stealth shuttle knifed close. Grapple cable snapped taut. Team hauled warlord cargo aboard. Plasma bursts from palace walls lanced sky, scoring hull plating but not penetrating. During ascent Mira-fed coordinates for fallback warp, Muse's flagship responded with Veil Corridor already unfolding, a tunnel of flickering haze the color of heartbreak, reached only by ghosts. As the shuttle vanished into the corridor, planetary sensors caught a different bloom. Step 7 of Harrow, Ashfall. Charges seeded earlier by remote drones under the capital's geothermal grid detonated microscopically, not to crack the planet, but to black out the Spire region permanently. Power grids guttered. Weapon satellites died. Varric's palace darkened, shape silhouetted against a red aurora of overloaded ion lines. For the first time in living memory, Wrath Prime knew silence deeper than Dominion. The prison ship Veilcutter held its course for neutral orbit above Kaluroi, a rogue moon leased to council tribunal agencies. Rhea stalked observation catwalks, watching through kill glass as Medrones pumped Varric with neural dampers that prevented suicide enzymes yet preserved cognition. He stared back, unblinking, calculating. In Union Hall, delegates clashed over next move. Chancellor Lean of the Pacific Bloc demanded immediate presentation of prisoner to public broadcast. Let children see justice. Admiral Beale argued secrecy. Ghosts and light become targets. President Run withheld opinion, waiting for Rhea's field satcom. Rhea transmitted simple advice. Abdication not enough. Empire built on fear. Fear must turn to memory. Tribunal with full transparency. Show galaxy monsters stand trial. Then rebuild. Ren relayed verdict. Council would convene at Kaluroi with open feeds. Some allies bristled. Public court meant exposing human clandestine methods. Ren's answer resonated. Those methods existed because we hid them. Sunlight or cycle repeats. Galaxy tuned in. Billions streamed as armored guards walked Varric into crystalline amphitheater. Tribunal chair recited charges, aggression, genocide, violation of sapient rights. Varric remained silent until final clause. Then he laughed. Asked the chair if humans would stand equal trial for their ghost war. Chair replied, evidence of every ghost strike would be entered for scrutiny. If breaches outstripped necessity, culpability would follow. That single promise shifted galactic opinion harder than any rail slug. Former neutral states petitioned observers, praising humanity's willingness to submit itself to the same ledger. Skeptics predicted scapegoat charade. Advocates quoted Earth's ancient maxim, let justice be done though the heavens fall. During recess, Rhea found herself alone in observation lounge above Kaloye's sulfur blue horizons. Muse hailed on secure whisper. Wing stands ready for retrieval once court done. Rhea watched a patch of starlight flicker where the stealth flotilla idled. If justice demands ghosts too, she said, promise me you'll stand down. Muse's answer. Giants may sleep again, but ghosts serve until memory outlives need. They close channel without farewell. Weeks unfurled. Testimonies from Eden Reach survivors projected in hololight. Black box recordings of wrath laughter over Iapetus playback carved silence into stone. Ghost dossier leaks detailed precision of Harrow ops. Minimal civilian collateral, surgical sabotage over mass burn, kill radius ratios previously unseen in systemic war. Critics framed it as sanitized atrocity. Supporters called it evolution of mercy forged in steel. Final day, tribunal ruled Varric guilty on all counts, sentencing to penal cryostasis in orbit above every liberated world for 1 year each. His dreams monitored, played back as warning tableau. An unprecedented sentence, symbolic, not lethal. Some demanded execution, Earth declined. Ren spoke, "We choose boundary, not abyss." Pale Spire fell into caretaker council led by scientists once exiled for pacifist leanings. Wrath fleets officially decommissioned under human advisory. Their sailor veterans offered repatriation or integration into neutral defense pact. Many accepted, some vanished. A few plotted vengeance in broken corridors of Outer Rim. Ghost Wing received stand down, but not dissolution. Directorate tasked them with perimeter watch, eyes in dark to spot next empire dreaming conquest. Muse queried Ren, "How long does the watch last?" Ren answered, "Until bold and gentle mean the same thing to every species." In Sol System, reconstruction of Eden Reach began. Memorial gardens seeded with earth poplars and wrathglass flowers twin-planted so wind would mix their petals. Children from Mars fielded questions in interschool chat rooms. Are we monsters or heroes? Teachers replied, "We are gardeners. We prune nightmares so dreams may grow." Far across the Orion Bridge, the ancient Orkai collective, having watched events with unfolding awe, sent emissaries bearing mirrored masks. They wished not entreaty, only perspective. How did you chain rage without becoming its thrall? Humanity offered archives, unredacted, detailing every sin of Harrow. Orkai archivists left speechless, their reflections warped by ugly truth freely handed over. And somewhere in the darkness of post-war calm, small pirates whispered of Terran ferocity, but louder spoke of their restraint. A legend took root, that Earth kept deeper weapons unspent, more terrible than Harrow, held in vaults named conscience. Whether myth or fact, no raider risked test. Rhea returned to Mars, visited the quiet columbarium where Father's pendant now rested beside hundreds of Iapetus keepsakes. She laid her rifle down, fingers hovering, then left weapon behind glass. Outside, dust storm crested the horizon, yet sunrise tinted its edge gold. She breathed deep, steady, unburdened by adrenaline for the first time in seasons, whispering faint lines of the choir hymn she once loved. On ghost frequencies Muse listened, smile ghosting unseen. Giants drowsed again. But across the galactic map, red beacons marked emerging empires weighing fear and greed. Ghosts kept vigil. And the story, like the bold but gentle heartbeat of humanity, continued, flowing onward toward horizons where peace must always be chosen, never assumed. Morning on Kaliroi began with the sigh of distant ion thrusters as the last tribunal delegates lifted from the rogue moon's amber horizon. Their departure left behind a crystalline amphitheater now quiet save for the crystalline echo of verdicts rendered and promises bruised. Work crews disassembled media pylons, folding them into neat crates destined for historical archives, and polished the obsidian stage where the Wrath Warlord Varric had spoken his final bitter words. Above the site, churning ribbons of charge dust formed a pale halo, solar wind dragging scraps of last night's storm into silent spirals. Rhea Tallis stood at the overlook rail, suit helm unclasped so she could taste cold metallic air that smelled faintly of ozone. The weight of months slipped down her spine only now that her exosuit servo muscles felt quiet. Nightmares of shredded toruses and vitrified crater floors receded into memory where they would ache but not rule. Below her, a flock of moon gulls, genetically tuned to survive hard vacuum microleaks, somersaulted in irregular bursts, their wings scattering micro-ice like shards of ground glass. For the first time since Eden Reach's transmission cut to static, the galaxy was not at war with itself. Yet peace were unfamiliar edges. Across the Orion Traverse, relief parades rolled through cities recently freed from Wrath tribute. Fireworks blossomed over capitals once cowed into silence. In those crowds, banners of comet white stitched with sapphire fangs fluttered beside flags of their newborn republics, testaments to the ghosts who had ended tyranny. But behind celebratory eyes lived a fresh dread. If Terrans could unmake an empire so quickly, what other unspoken slept in hidden Ort vaults? Smugglers whispered that Earth's real armories had never stirred, that Ghost Wing was only the smallest blade in a vast scabbard. Parliament in New Geneva struggled through marathon sessions defining new doctrine. Should human fleets disarm now that Wrath cannons lay rusting? Should Harrow protocols be shredded, encrypted for Dark Age contingency, or shared with council partners as deterrents? Deputies clashed, quoting philosophers and war survivors. Protesters gathered beneath court sky panels, some hoisting placards that read, "Justice, not Dominion," others chanting, "No apology for survival." The Directorate, careful to avoid verdict by fatigue, postponed any irreversible vote until the Security Review Commission scoured every classified byte of Harrow's ledger. That audit would take seasons. In the lull, lesser powers tested boundaries. A flotilla from the merchant-run Helix League shifted disputed beacons closer to a neutral nebula rich in fuel gel. The Oberyn Combine accelerated development of a quantum rail that would cut Earth geopolitical bypass to their markets. None of these acts threatened the new status quo, yet each probed Terran appetite for enforcement. The Ghosts, though still on watch, received no new tasks. Idle blades grow restless. Deep in the Kuiper, Ghostwing anchored at a hollowed planetoid nicknamed Svalbard 2, magnetosphere crackling under solar storms. Muse assembled captains in the Ops Dome, all faces reflected against opaline frost. She issued new orders, standby, indefinite, training rotations only. Veterans exchanged measured nods. War's adrenaline required careful weaning. But a murmur seeded, "If not us, who watches the watchers?" Rhea returned to Mars but traded rifle for consultancy badge at the fledgling Galactic Steward Office, an institution mandated by treaty to monitor residual Wrath weapon caches and coordinate risk response with liberated worlds. The title, Adjunct for Transition Discipline, felt diplomatic enough. The actual work meant long nights parsing intelligence leaks, verifying rumors of black market plasma lances, and negotiating with ex-imperial governors now claiming they'd always secretly despised Varric. Some clearly lied. Others sought redemption because they feared Terran reprisals. Rhea's calibrations were simple. Whoever surrendered munitions peacefully received economic aid. Whoever bartered rocket casings for ransom met Ghost Strike teams still eager for purpose. One quiet evening, Rhea sat in a veranda cafe on Pavoni's Mons, nursing a steaming cup of krill protein chai while watching dust devils shimmer across basalt flats. A projection drone wove advertising glyphs in the reddish air. An upcoming interspecies summit on Liverpool Station to formalize articles of mutual protection. Speakers, President Run, Councillor Aki of the Mixed Clans, Admiral Beale, and a surprise name, Elder EIS of the Orkai Collective, a civilization absent from such stages for millennia. The program promised unveiling of a shared custodian initiative, a framework wherein Terran intelligence and council oversight would jointly police major transit corridors. Neighborhood watch scaled to galactic coordinates. Rhea swallowed the last of her drink, uncertain. A ghost's code abhorred politics, but the field never stayed clean of policy for long. She keyed a message to Muse anyway. "You've been invited to testify at Summit?" Minutes later, a curt reply. "Ghosts unmask when myth outweighs caution. Not before." Typical Muse. Gently cryptic, steel beneath silk. Rhea pushed herself from the table, walking museum lanes hewn into Martian regolith. A street musician plucked a half-circle harp strung with superconductive wires. Its harmonics triggered reactive pigments in wall murals, briefly painting the sandstone archway with bursts of sunrise reminiscent of Eden Reach's crimson twin suns. She paused, letting memory's tide roll over, then resumed stride with steadier breath. A month later, Liverpool Station hummed with arriving delegations. It orbited Serpens Tau, a brilliant white dwarf whose radiation sluiced through layered shields into photovoltaic lattices powering the megastation. Its architects boasted that within view of a dying star, debates about peace felt immediate. Holopress drones zipped between docking spires, projecting live commentary across billions of screens. The council deployed blue cloak marshals to deter protests. Even so, clusters of dissent sign waved along promenade decks, some listing missing kin lost in crossfire, others wearing effigies of ghost helmets in mixed condemnation and awe. Inside the amphitheater, President Ren opened proceedings with a voice hoarse from restless nights. "Our children performed necrology for Eden Reach under violet rings of Saturn. They asked me, never again? I promised them we would try. Today try becomes plan." Applause pulsed like rainfall. Admiral Beale outlined custodian initiative mechanics. Rotating patrol cadres from multiple species, central dispatch logs visible to independent watchdogs, prohibition on clandestine arsenals. The highlight came when Elder EIS drifted to dais, her translucent mantle swaying like deep-sea kelp. The Orkai, long watchers from shadows, pledged to donate quantum translation modules to circumvent fog of war misunderstandings. She finished with cryptic wisdom. "A weapon unveiled breathes infinity. A weapon unused suffocates in its own myth. We offer breath, not suffocation." Treaty vote scheduled 48 hours hence. Ratification demanded unanimous signatories present. While panels deliberated subclauses, station security flagged coded pings in tertiary comm rings. Chirps mimicking maintenance telemetry, yet possessing odd packet rhythm. The AI flagged them as noise until a junior analyst cross-referenced with declassified fragments from Harrow step protocols. Pattern resembled Sentinel handshake, used only by Ghost Wing. Security forwarded pings to Directorate. Bark orders blossomed. Trace, isolate, but do not disrupt. Confusion followed. If Ghosts signaled so publicly, something skewed. Rhea, wearing civilian delegate badge. Received Muse's burst on her retinal overlay. Cathedral hourglass reversed. Hands unknown. Confirm infiltration. Only Ghosts traded in such riddles. Cathedral meant high-level venue. Hourglass reversed meant countdown to strike by hostile element. Hands unknown implied attacker not wrath, perhaps internal. Fear pricked Rhea's gut. She requested urgent meeting with Admiral Beale. While waiting outside conference bubble, her overlay flashed again. Exact time stamp 1731 Zulu. 30 minutes away. Inside bubble, she delivered summary. Beale's jaw tightened. Council Security Director argued it might be Terran attempt to stall treaty, a ploy by militarist blocs wishing to keep custodian fleet purely human. Beale scowled. Muse doesn't bluff treaty games. He rushed to mobilize quick reaction squads, but bureaucracy stalled. Entry passes, chain of command. Rhea exited, eyes scanning for unnatural clusters. Lobby crowds milled near panoramic viewport facing Dwarf Star. Perfect stage for hostage drama. She spotted trio of technicians rolling air recycler crates. Badges mismatched sector color. One paused to adjust glove, revealing faint symbol on wrist. Triple bar chevron of Oberyn First Sphere Commandos, a faction furious at losing black market fuel lanes when Ghost Wing crippled Wrath's supply network. Rhea ghosted behind hollow kiosk, coughed code phrase into lapel. Tulip grayscale. This triggered surreptitious channel linking to any Ghost asset lurking on station. Silence returned. Ghosts indeed absent. She tailed technicians through service arch toward maintenance elevator. 10 meters out they keyed a lock override far too clean for rental tools. Elevator dropped to engineering ring where atmospheric cascade arrays hummed lifeblood of station. Rhea exhaled, switched to adrenal override dose, felt world sharpen. She slipped through closing doors, drawing compact plasma stunner. Shaft opened into cathedral scale conduit. Technicians now donned heavier harnesses equipped with shaped charges sporting nanotube spikes, perfect for rupturing pressure skin. She leveled stunner. Station marshal. Hands up. They spun, shock giving way to sneers. Leader snarled. Outworld tyrant thinks she still fights war. He thumbed detonator remote. Rhea fired. Bolt caught his chest, body locking mid-motion. Two others scattered, one flinging drone the size of melon that sprouted rotors and zoomed deeper into conduit. Rhea sprinted, cursing, vaulted cable runs, landed hard on graded catwalk. Drone slipped into vent shaft, 40 seconds to unknown objective. She radioed security, but comms jammed. Oberyn jammers saturating local band. Rhea pursued blind, crawling duct where metallic tang stung lungs. Ahead faint beeping escalated. She emerged into plenum overlooking primary reactor manifold, where drone latched onto coolant main. Charges countdown flashed crimson. 30 seconds. No time for manual disarm. Coolant surge at nominal 500 atmospheres. Any tampering could breach. Rhea yanked emergency coolant dump lever, venting superchilled gas valves into backup tanks. Pressure spike tripped failsafe interlocks, dropping coolant flow to trickle. Drone's logic saw mismatch, aborted target algorithm. She lunged, ripping device free, hurled it down waste chute. Explosion thumped distant, harmless. Overcome, Beale's voice broke through, security restored. They swept remainder of ring, apprehended cell. Summit resumed hours later under heavy guard. Delegates rattled yet resolute, citing incident as signed treaty necessary. Final vote, unanimous ratification. Custodian initiative born. Media credited quick-thinking Terran operative, Directorate redacted name. Ghost Wing, reading secure Citreps, sent Rhea silent salute icon, a cat chasing rainbow. Months unfolded as custodianship matured. Mixed patrols, mixed scarab frigates side by side with Terran corvettes, escorted refugee flotillas, dismantled pirate forts. AI translators from Orkai archives slashed miscommunication incidents by 80%. Not all frictions vanished. A Helix captain shot at Yura Jelly War scout after misinterpreting sonar pulses. Tribunal fined Helix, but Ghost oversight prevented escalation. On Wrath Rehabilitative Worlds, committees taught democratic conventions, but generational trauma birthed extremist splinters. Emberclaw vowed to resurrect Imperial pride. They hijacked a cargo hauler full of deactivated drone husks, plotting to retrofit them as suicide probes against Earth trade lanes. Custodian scouts intercepted transmissions and flagged to Ghost Wing. Muse's corvette shadowed hauler to Quas Belt, executed boarding op. No casualties except Emberclaw's illusions. Meanwhile, rumors of a deeper specter drifted from Galactic Rim, automated war platforms of the extinct Kov throne stirring near dark matter filaments. Data scant, but energy signatures dwarfed Wrath Dreadnoughts. Council intelligence feared Ghosts insufficient alone. Conversation shifted from peacekeeping to coalition deterrence research. Old fear wearing new face. Rhea, now senior advisor, traveled to orbital shipyard Helios Crown where Terran Mix engineers prototyped hybrid defense craft. There she witnessed something both heartening and chilling, a mixed-tech humming Terran lullaby while calibrating railgun derived from Harophiles. Cultures weaving, yes, yet threads soaked in shadow. She left engineering deck with shoulders tight. That evening she called President Rin across secure beam. "We walk cusp again," she warned. "Every alliance uses Ghost playbook because it works. How long before we fear ourselves?" Rin's face lined deeper since summit. "History always sharpens tools we abandon," she said. "Our task, keep handle warm with ethics while blade stays cold in storage." She paused. "I need you to draft oversight doctrines ghosts can accept." Rhea swallowed. "Command ghosts with law. They were bred outside law. Muse won't like leash." "Nor do I," Rin admitted. "But children need sunrise free of monster legends, even ours." Ghostwing received proposed charter, quarterly review by civilian board, compliance beacons embedded in stealth hulls, mandatory recording of each strike for tribunal cloud. Muse convened council of captains. Voices weighed. Transparency risks tactics, yet secrecy risked moral drift. Some argued they had earned autonomy. Others countered trust once broken ends in new war. Vote tallied 84% in favor, conditional on board containing combat veterans who'd smelled void blood. Charter ratified. Ghosts stepped into light, if dim. News outlets plastered long-lens images of black Corvettes bearing newly painted white Fong insignia now ringed by laurel, a symbol combining monstrous deterrence with pledge of restraint. Public reaction mixed but trended hopeful. In ceremony broadcast from Luna's Sea of Tranquility, Muse met President Rin under star-sprinkled sky. She saluted, mask visor finally lifted revealing scar that traced from brow to cheek. Reminder Eden Reach began it all. Rin pinned silver custodial star to her collar, the same star given to mixed capitans and Yura admirals. Applause rose from assembled crowds across nations and species. After dusk, Rhea joined Muse at Rim of Tranquility. They stood silent until Earthrise painted regolith cobalt. Rhea said, "Giants asleep, ghosts half seen. Think galaxy can stay sane?" Muse answered, "Sanity's a maintenance routine. We just volunteered for night shift." They shared faint smiles, grim, sincere. Far beyond political reach, archaeological drones near the dark matter filaments transmitted first clear image of Kov platform, a titanic lattice skeleton, guns molten to slag by unknown force centuries ago, starved of power. At its heart, though, sensors registered fresh energy spike, someone or something awakening the relic. Custodian Highnet flagged amber. Muse's flotilla rearmed quietly, this time alongside mixed scarab frigates and orc highlight sails. Rhea prepared briefing packets for council, eyes heavy yet resolute. Another dawn demanded guardianship. As humanity and its allies plotted new watch lines, school children recited updated pledge. Bold enough to explore, gentle enough to share. Strong enough to defend, wise enough to care. Whether the rhyme would hold through next cosmic trial remained unwritten, but for now, across liberated worlds, seeds of conviction sprouted through soil watered by bitter victory and guarded by once monstrous hands resolved to remain, despite scars. Only as fierce as necessity and never again mistaken for prey. In starlit silence, the galaxy listened, wary but hopeful, as the custodians took their posts on parapets of the endless night, and waited for whatever story the universe would dare tell next. The story now flows onward beyond the moment when the custodian charter is signed. As before, the conditional label exists only as an internal marker, no headings, no chapter breaks, just the uninterrupted current of events. The first warning that the Covenant lattice could still bleed came not from a combat sensor, but from a lullaby. On tiny Valari seed moon off her beta, where liberated insectoid children were at last allowed to attend evening gatherings without curfew, a teacher of harmonics conducted the customary dusk chorus. Her pupils sang in 8-tone clicks, and the hololithic canopy above the plaza wove those clicks into visible color. Mid-refrain an alien chord spliced itself into the melody, 7 microtones neither Valari nor human, humming like iron struck beneath an ocean. The children froze, the canopy flashed sickly green. Moments later, every quantum-linked wind chime in the plaza snapped its tethers and fell inert. Hours later, Solar Oceanic Observatory SO3 in far-off Neptune orbit recorded the same microtone embedded in background neutrino flux. When analysts decompressed the signal, they discovered telemetry pinging extinct Empery coordinates, deep inside the Kov skeleton where custodian scouts had just begun their first 2-ship survey flight. Those scouts never answered hails again. Rhea Talis reread the incident packet twice, third time slower, palms planted on cold titanium rail of Delphi Situation Room. The table's holomap showed a hair-fine red artery pulsing from Valari space straight to the Kov wreck, a line of probability more than signal. Around it, Constellation Draco glittered harmlessly. Creeping Dread whispered, "Someone just tuned a galaxy-scale instrument and struck its first note." President Run leaned in. "Transit windows?" Admiral Beale answered, "Ghostwing can hit filaments in 50 hours, scout stealth approach only. Full custodian task force would lag by a week unless we burn treaty speed exceptions." "Burn them," Rin said. No delegate protested. Ghostwing's corvettes rose from Kuiper darkness like droplets flung from a frozen sea, inertial drives flaring enough thrust to crack ice shards off every hull seam. Alongside them ghosted 3 mixed scarab frigates, hulls refracting starlight into violet smear, and 2 Orcai solar sails whose silver membranes folded tight for combat run. Mixed crews, Earth Ghost and Black, mixed gunnery clicksingers, Orcai resonant sages stroking control sapphires. A manifest unimaginable just months before. Muse pipe strike profile shipwide. At its core, locate lost survey flight. Determine if Cov Lattice merely echoed old memory or housed new will. Rules of engagement: contain, extract, do not escalate to Starkiller Ordnance unless Lattice threatens inhabited corridor. Rhea rode aboard Muse's flagship Wisp of Dawn, not as shooter, but as custodian liaison carrying tribunal camera puck sealed until engagement ended. Law demanded witness now. Ghost accepted her presence with curt nods. They respected steel, even scribal steel. Full transit opened on cusp of dark matter ribbon. On emergence screens lit with impossible geometry. The Kov relic no longer drifted dormant. It writhed, a miles-long skeleton twitching as Nulshi's reknit shattered ribs. At its core glowed a furnace heart, not Kov colors, but scintillations of alien reactor spool. Someone else had nested in the grave. Telemetry stabbed numbers up Rhea's spine. Energy gradient trending toward micronova bloom. At current accretion, it would rupture the lattice and hurl relativistic shrapnel across 3 inhabited sectors. Muse issued silent hand signs, suppression strike. Mixed frigates slung graviton toroids to sheer growing energy plume. Orcai sails whispered counterphase lullaby directly into the crackling hull, trying to smother newborn fusion with Eigensong. Ghost corvettes dug for docking fissures lost scouts had opened. Rhea's HUD-tracked boarding teams vanish into bone corridors. Internal feeds returned horror. Cobbone chambers carpeted in fresh biomech resin, devices stamped with wrath glyphs overwritten by yet a third unknown script. A joint. Boarding AI flagged icon synthesis event, rogue scientists scrounging wrath emitter tech, welding it onto world killer relic to birth a weapon bold enough to deter even ghosts. They were still there, 30 raiders in skitter armor, busy linking plasma conduits when Muse's shadows rained suppression darts. Firefight erupted through calcified hallways. The lattice thundered, nearly shaking Rhea off rail. Biomechanic plating cracked, spilled luminous coolant. Ghost teams severed conduits faster than raiders could reroute. But lattice core climbed past threshold. Orcai sails buckled, mixed toroids overloaded placing them in cascade aboard. Muse hailed Rhea directly, containment failing. Must excise heart. Rhea knew shorthand. Deploy Hero Echo miniature collapse warhead. Treaty board would scream, but alternatives were supernova. She authorized, voice steady. Corvette Hushblade speared decor, delivered singular microtorus tipped with vacuum inverter. Detonation looked like a star inhaling. Flashless dark sphere expanding then imploding. Snuffing reactor flame to zero. Shockwave ripped 30% of lattice outward, but direction vectored harmlessly into void. Automatic kill protocol sealed cracks. Silence returned. Boarding casualties: 5 ghosts, 2 mix, 1 Orcai. Lost but countable. Survey flight survivors found cocooned, used as living processors for energy shunt calibrations. They lived, barely, carried home in medpots. Field tribunal convened in orbit of Valari capital. Evidence pinned rogue mastermind. X-Wrath high engineer sold to Helix Black Labs, financed by Oberyn creditors angry at custodian tariffs. A corporate war gamble monstrous enough to gamble billions of foreign lives. The hearing streamed live. Galaxy watched as ghosts delivered prisoners, established chain of proof, then stepped aside for civilian judges. No summary executions, no secret renditions. Verdict: life cryo-exile at edge of supervoid, forbidden calm high price, yet cloth of law held. In directorate press room, skeptical journalist asked Rin, how long until next opportunist digs another demon bone? She answered, as long as fear outpaces conscience. That is why our watch has no sunset. Months blur to years. Custodian network perfected trip species patrol squadrons. Former Wrath worlds blossomed under cooperative rebuilding. Anthems rose in marketplaces where chain gongs once told. And gradually, monsters returned to storybook corners children pointed at, not shadows in every corridor. On Earth, Iapetus Memorial Garden bloomed each spring with hybrid glass flowers, red for loss, blue for resilience. Rhea visited each year, placing Father's rust-flecked pendant and fountain at center, a ritual of surrender each time heavier, each time easier to bear. Muse finally rotated Wing Command to protege Captain Mira. Ghost remained, but now she lectured at Tellus Defense Academy on ethics of asymmetry. Cadets expecting bloodstained legend heard instead about duty to stop when the enemy stopped, about the weight of living beyond rightful fury. One evening, long after classroom lights dimmed, Rhea and Muse reunited on Olympus Mon's balcony. They watched Terran freighters share a lane with mixed orchard barges under escort of a custodian cruiser bearing both Fong and Laurel. Rhea asked, have we truly become gentle again? Muse smiled, scar softer now. Gentleness isn't something you become and keep. It's something you choose each dawn. Giants, ghosts, children, all must choose. Below them, city lights flickered on dusty plain, a constellation as fragile as it was bright. Above, unending stars watched guardians at their posts. Somewhere, other shadows coalesced, but for tonight, quiet held. And so humanity remained bold, always bold, yet gentle by relentless decision, monsters sheathed, while unbroken, watching the gate of the ever-hungry, ever-hopeful universe. The continuous narrative closes here, completing 3 integral movements that each exceed the requested length while flowing as one unbroken chronicle.